Hi everyone, so we got the patch notes, patch 1.1 in Diablo 4 for season 1. And man, this is a big one. And a rough one, I gotta say. I just finished recording like a over 1 hour video, and I was editing it now and stuff like that, but it just takes way too long and I need to sleep. So I'm just gonna do the TLDR version now, and then we're gonna have the full version later when I wake up. But basically, it seems like no one likes it. So personally, I think it's not all that crazy as people make it out to be, but there are a lot of nerfs in this. We have a few key takeaways here in our max roll summary. Basically what you need to know is defenses are nerfed pretty heavily, so the stat rolls on items especially. You also lose 750 armor in the season because of the Malignant hearts, and the Malignant hearts are not necessarily strong enough defensively, unless you like stack only defensive ones, I guess, to really make up for that. So this is like something like the game gets harder. Offensive stats are also nerfed, especially vulnerable damage and critical strike damage, which does help a lot to actually balance out different builds and balance out especially item choices. For example, swords versus daggers on a rogue, or bows versus crossbows. So I think that was actually a really good move. Vulnerable damage just has become less mandatory, but it also means we're gonna do less damage. I think this is actually something that the hearts will actually balance out for at least a season. On Eternal Realm though, oof, yeah. Then we have some experience nerfs. So TLDR is that you do not farm higher level monsters anymore at all, basically. So previously you had a strategy, you farm monsters 3 level higher than you in Diamond dungeons. This was the best way to gain levels. Now they reduce this bonus for fighting high level monsters to 1.5% per level up to 10 levels, so you get 15% more XP for plus 10 monster level, which is like nowhere near enough to be worth it. So basically always farm monsters of your own level. And they also killed boosting basically entirely, so you can only enter the capstone dungeons at level 40 and 60 respectively, and you also have a cap at how much bonus XP you're getting for being underleveled. On top of what I just described, there's like another base value of the monster XP basically, and that is kept to plus 10 instead of plus 100 levels now. So effectively you can't boost people anymore. Then we got the barbs. The Hammer of the Ancients was fixed, that was expected. So at least for mouse and keyboard players, that is a nerf of around 50%. Still probably one of the best barb builds. Then they fixed the Rend, like raw billion damage build, so that's fine. Gores, I can't really tell if this is a buff or a nerf, and I heard mixed feelings about it, but apparently kind of bad. We have Druid that got a pretty major nerf to Grizzly Rage, because you only have Unstoppable for 6 seconds now and not for the entire duration. Also they nerfed healing, especially with the masochistic spirit boon. This is a lucky hit effect now, so it will proc significantly less on all builds. The same actually goes for rogues as well, siphoning strikes. But other than that, druids are actually just fine, so they're gonna remain the strongest class in the game in my opinion. Then we have necromancers. They get a bit of a bone spear nerf, not too crazy in my opinion. And they get pretty major buffs to bloodlands. That could be kind of a thing, and a few minor tweaks. So this is about it. Necromancers are going to be alright, I would say, nothing crazy. Then we have the rogues. Rogues are getting out of this patch really powerful because they didn't really get nerfed, honestly. The only real nerf here is the siphoning strikes, as I just mentioned, the healing. So similar to the druids, this has become a lucky hit effect now, so you don't get guaranteed healing. So it's something like minus 70 to minus 90% healing now on some of those builds. But other than that, there is actually nothing bad for the rogues. So they are just like all around really powerful, all around really balanced with their builds as well. Basically all of the builds are like really close together. So really good news here. And we even get some cool new stuff in the patch. And lastly we have Sorks, and that is a big oof. Sorks were already probably the weakest class, and now they are absolutely the weakest class. So there are 2 reasons for that. Number 1 is Aspect of Control does not stack anymore. So previously you could multiply this effect by stacking different crowd controls. This is gone. And Devouring Blaze passive that gives you extra critical strike damage against burning enemies, and then even more against burning and immobilized enemies, has been like massively nerfed. And there are some other tweaks, some other buffs for that. But in general, it's not anywhere close to enough for the Sorks. So I'm not really sure what will happen there. There are some relatively powerful hearts that they have previewed. So that's actually the full list here. I can link this in the description as well. Some really promising stuff here for some of those builds. But for the most part, yeah, Sorks are like way down in the gutter. Druids are really good. And then there's like Rogue, Barb, Necro somewhere in the middle. So this is my expectation here. Something else you need to know is that they also shifted around the power between stats on items a bit. So for example, they reduced the core stats a little bit. Then they reduced cooldown, minus 30% is actually pretty heavy. This will also affect some classes more than others, especially Sorks that were really reliant on a lot of cooldowns. Also the buffs a little bit with their shouts, if you play some of those shout builds. Then here are these crit and vulnerable damage nerfs that I mentioned. So this just mostly balances out the choices a little bit, which is kind of good in my opinion. And they also buffed a lot of these like kind of trash damage affixes. So for example, on chests and amulets, you could roll these stats here. And they were all really bad, and now they're slightly better, but still something you don't really want. It's just like not as bad as before, I guess. And here are these nerfs to those defenses that I mentioned at the start. So minus 30% total armor, minus 20, minus 25%, damage reduction stats. This will be felt really noticeably on the higher end in particular. So in short, I would be careful playing a Sork. Everything else is probably fine. The game is getting a lot harder, but we do have the Malignant hearts to offset all of that loss. And let's see how it goes. I'm gonna have, as I mentioned, another video coming up with all the details. So there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. This was just a very quick overview. And there are definitely a lot of details worth looking at. In any case, I'll leave it at that for now. So hope you like this one. Let me know what you think and see you guys next time.